realized it might be really important to change the way that you think. Successful and doing all the things, checked the boxes, most of them in the life that you thought you were going to have. And you got there and you thought, is this it? Right. And I did all this work and planned mindfully my map of life when I was in my 20s and 30s. And I'm sliding into midlife and I'm like, wait a minute, something is amiss. And all of a sudden, all the things you thought were going to be so dreamy don't feel so dreamy. And you're realizing that the way that we are talking about midlife is like dreadful, right? We're going to examine that in a second. So, if this is you and any part of this resonates where you're kind of in a stage of life and you really feel like you need a redo, then hi, my name is Jen. I am the founder and owner of Laughing Lotus Wellness. I'm a transformational purpose coach and expert. Hey, Natalie. And what I do is I support midlife women who are in a space of realizing that they've kind of come away from their purpose. Like they had one idea about life, they got to midlife and went, wait a minute, this is not what I asked for. This is not what I ordered. Can you take this away, Maestro? So we're going to go in and we're going to help get clarity around your actual purpose, right? Sometimes I find people don't necessarily actually know what it is. And so we're going to dive in, get you some clarity so that you can actually really create the impact that you want to leave in the world. And sometimes in midlife, even that has morphed. So what I call that's lane changing. So we make some lane changes using my choose your own adventure style coaching, combining my over 20 years of psychotherapy experience with my favorite healing modalities. So for today, we're going to talk about change. That is our month of content. And so I'm going to talk about what that means. So that stands for, except for that my computer won't let me do it right now. You know what I'm saying. Oh my God. My iPad stays on for approximately 30 seconds. Not kidding. Creating new habits around your next grand evolution in midlife. So one more time, because that was messy. You're welcome. Creating new habits around your next grand evolution in midlife. So this month in my vlogs, what I'm sharing are little habits and tips and tools that are going to help elevate your journey through midlife. Today, I want to talk about changing the dialogue, a huge mind shift. I don't know about you, but when I think of midlife, here's what I think. Think of the phrases that you know of about midlife. What are they? Midlife crisis, right? And think about aging. You get old and then you die. I mean, like we literally have the most dreadful phrases. And honestly, what happens is then our beliefs coincide with these things. Like, whew, death and taxes, the only things that are certain in life. I would change that. The only thing that's certain in life is change. Okay. And we get the opportunity to redo our thinking anytime. And I don't know about you, if you're midlife and listening, please hey, shout out. And you don't have to tell me how old you are, because that's probably like some sort of faux pas, but I don't care. I'm 48. Okay. What I want to talk about is changing the dialogue that we have. And what made me think about this was one, is that I think that we look at midlife as a shit sandwich. So I'm going to talk about the shit sandwich for a minute. You've probably heard me use this phraseology, and I actually believe I'm borrowing it from Elizabeth Gilbert in her book, Big Magic, I think. But it stuck clearly because I love it. So I want you to think in her terms, she was talking about what kind of sandwich in life do you want to eat? If you want to get to where you want to go, what are you willing to contend with, right? Mine is, I don't want midlife to be a shit sandwich. We celebrate youth in our culture, correct? I mean, everything is young and youthful and thin, and you have forever to live, and YOLO, which in case you know what it means is you only live once. Okay, so I'll help you all out with the terminology when I even have it accessible anymore, because I stopped working with teens a while ago, so now my terminology is going down. But what I want to say is that I really think it's important that we understand that I don't believe we're talking about midlife in the way that we could. I think we glorify youth. We are scared to death of aging. And the middle part is like the shit sandwich. Because we think things like midlife crisis. Why do we have midlife crises? So I'm not going to go too deeply psychological today because I don't want to put you all to sleep, but also because I have some other thoughts that I think are important to send away from let's fix it. Let's not just talk about it. But I really do believe that psychologically understanding that midlife is a section of time where we are usually more settled. Okay. We usually kind of like figured out a little bit about who we are at least. We may or may not have raised children and launched them. We may or may not still be raising them. We might have aging parents that are having issues. We likely have had some losses at this point in our life. We're maybe, hopefully not, developing some health issues. And so, right, and all of a sudden, shit's getting real. Shit's getting real in here. And we're like, oh, okay. And I don't know about you, but I guess my philosophy is this. I want to do the second half of my life better than the first. What do I mean by that? Do I regret the first half? No. I will tell you that with some of the pieces of middle age that are challenging are also some really beautiful pieces no one's talking about. And so it is always my passion to encourage us to be thinking outside the box, to shift and radically move from one space of the way that we see the world perception to another. And what I would promote is the confidence that I have at 48, I wouldn't give up for the world. I wouldn't give up the hard earned wisdom and experience. So for me, when I think about midlife, I actually feel like it's celebratory. Yes, there are challenges. I'm not going to ignore that. There's empty nesting, there's grief and loss. I mean, there's all sorts of things that bubble to the surface. Map of life, grief. We showed up where we thought we were going to be, and we actually aren't fulfilled. And holy shit, all the money I thought I was going to make that was going to make the world go around and like sustain me is, I don't know, understandably not sustaining me. So now it's time to renegotiate. So, two tools that are really cool I'm going to talk about today. A book by Adam Grant called Think Again, which I'm listening to, and a podcast called The Next Big Idea. And this one is called Quit: Why You Have to Give Up to Get Ahead. So I wasn't able to listen to the whole thing, but I was listening this morning. I'm like, this is perfect. It was perfectly connected to listening to the book on Think Again by Adam Grant. So in the beginning of Adam Grant's book, and I really want you to just listen to this. This is a story, right? So, and I'm going to condense it as much as I can. The very first opening story, one of them is about the firefighters that go up in the mountains and are diligently working to save forest, people, homes, right? Okay. And he talks about this one story that was very, very scary. And what happened was they dropped the firefighters in and they realized that it had gotten further ahead of them than they imagined. So now we're in panic mode. Okay. And what do we do? Right. And they've got all these tools, they've got bags and they've got their axe and they've got all their, right. And so they're just trying to outrun it. And one of the guys, I think one of the like lead firefighters is like, wait, gets out matches and he's lighting fires in the grass. And everyone's like, what the hell are you doing? Because I mean, it looks completely asinine, right? It looks completely crazy. Starting fire. And says, come over, lay down. Right. And now the fire's moving and he's laying in the grass and he's waiting. And the rest of them take off. They're going to outrun it, still carrying all their gear. And sadly, some of those firefighters lost their lives. They were unable to get a new helmet on, get a new like idea on, right? Died, some of them literally clutching the axe that was a tool that was supposed to serve them. And I'm not saying this to be grim in any way, but I really want you to have an imagination of what you might be holding on to as your tool that you think in midlife is going to work for your shit, and it's not. Could be a belief, could be a job, could be a relationship. It could be about 9 million things. And you're like, will not change, right? Maybe you're holding on to this idea of the midlife shit sandwich or the midlife crisis, because that's all that we tell a story about, is the misery that is midlife. Wow. I mean, I really want you to sit with that a minute. Think about that. What do you think about midlife? And I really want you to contemplate, what are you gripping onto? And here is the sad thing. They did research and they literally researched what would have happened had the firefighters, men and women, taken off their shit and just run. If they just lay down the tools that they knew that they had to have trained to use, right? Get it? and they just left them, the percentage of time that they bought themselves to outrun it was greater. 16 to 20%, I want to say. Forgive if I'm a little off there. You get my drift. Instead, gripping my really heavy ass equipment and my axe. This is the same thing for us in midlife. I get to decide. Do I want to hang on to my old belief system, gripping and holding and right? Like, I'm going to go into midlife the same fucking way I already did the other half of my life because that was working awesome. Right? Do you feel me? Wow. Wow. Let's be more inspired, right? I mean, I hope you feel this. Let's be more inspired and creative to set things down, give ourselves a rest, reacclimate, create a new narrative about midlife. It's so huge. And so this was real. I was listening to this story and my heart was just breaking. Listening to this story, I was like, oh, this is a little grim, but like really pointed. And that's why he's sharing the story. It's so pointed for us. I might need to think again. And that's what that firefighter did when he started the fires. He created something in back of them so that they actually had a strangely safe space to protect themselves in. And all of them were like, you're starting fires. I mean, understandably, I totally get it. In a panic minute, who can blame anyone? That's not what I'm saying. But I really want you to think about where in your life are you doing this? Are we doing things by rote? We've got our bag, we've got the act, we're just doing it. We're just doing things like I always did it, right? I always attend holidays the way that I hate because it's what we do. And it's the family rule. And I don't respect my boundaries for myself because like that's what I've always done. And that's why people like me is because they can like just get whatever the hell they want out of me. I am just flowing through things without kind of any conscientiousness about whether or not the shit is working. Is it going to save you from a fire? The fire is time and energy, right? Is it saving you from that? Or are you digging your heels in so deeply that there's just ruts and you're stuck and you're getting burnt to the ground? So in this podcast, the next big idea, this young woman's talking, she wrote a book about quitting. Really cool idea. And why you have to give up to get ahead. Again, more stories around, in this case, climbers. Okay. They train for years. I want you to really contemplate this, right, for a second. Imagine they train to do a climb for years. They prepare physically, mentally, breath. I mean, they do all these things because once they get up so far, they have to have oxygen. Right. And there's timelines that they'll give you when you start to do a huge climb. And they're like, okay, by X amount of time, you've got to turn around and come back down or you're going to run out of oxygen. We all get what that means, right? This is not rocket science. So one of the stories is built on Into Thin Air, is the story of Into Thin Air, which I want to say Jonathan Krakauer. I'm hoping I'm getting this correct. So this is a story that it stems from. And this really seasoned climber is like there's like only 700 feet left and the time is a ticking. And they're like, what do we do? Because you're sitting there and you're having this whole, imagine, right? You're having this whole crisis. Do I push through? Because I worked for this, right? I worked for this. It's just 700. It's right there. I can touch it with my fingertip. Do I give up? Do I quit and go back down? Or do I push on? This author's suggestion, and forgive me because I do not have her name, was what is it about grit in our culture that we so revere? Now, I've said I love gritty people. I don't mean it quite the way that she's talking about it. She means the stick-to-itiveness, the axe holding. So one of the leaders, one of the really seasoned climbers, they're having this, internal crisis. And finally he and a buddy talk and the buddy says, I'm heading back down. The other buddies, I'm going to keep going. I got to push through. 2 climbers keep going up and neither one makes it back. Right? So this is such a Debbie Downer day. I'm very, very sorry. And sorry to all the Debbies out there. My point is, the people that turned around got a chance to do it again. Right? The climbers that climbed back down the mountain and went, well, that shit sucks because I worked really hard to get here, right? And they're disappointed, kind of a little heartbroken. But they've been told there is a certain amount of time, and if you run out of oxygen, you will likely not make it back off of this mountain. They get to go back out again and try it again. The people that pushed forward, because we have an idea in our culture about gritting in, digging in, carrying the axe, and we are here for it, right? Because hey, quitters never win. How many times you heard that in your life, right? Look at the phraseology of our culture, and if you're not a little scared, I am scared for you. And so one of the things this author's promoting is quitting. That sometimes the most important thing that we can do is quit. And I'm going to tell you what, I circle back to that. And actually, what I would change in that is, and I'm not even changing what she's saying, what I would add to that, let me say it this way. What I would add to that is you're actually using self care. Quitting is a form of self care. Quitting is a form of intuitive listening. Quitting is giving yourself permission to begin again on another effing day. And so much like our ideas of midlife, right? We get to choose how we want to show up to it. I can go into midlife and go, oh my God, I sit down with my friends, growing hair places I don't want it. My hormones are effed up. Can't sleep right. Can't eat, can't look at a pastry because God forbid. And the way I'm doing my pile of friends I have, don't really know my heart. They just are, we've always done this. We've always been friends. And this job that doesn't fulfill me, well, it just makes the money. It pays the bills. Holy shit. This is me. I'm like saying all these things and I'm literally dying on the inside right now. And I honestly hope you are too. I hope the energy of this conversation is like, please, Jesus, do not let me have a life like that. There is a really brilliant opportunity in midlife to lean in to some of the things that are happening and to give ourselves permission to lay down that axe that we're holding, that we swear to God is going to be the saving grace for our life, whatever that is. Maybe it's grit. Maybe your belief system is like, I have to stay the course. I have to make the money. I have to do the thing. I said I would. I did that a lot. I said I would. Responsible people do what they say. Responsible people don't quit. Nice women just say yes. I mean, I could sit and do this all day long and you get my vibe. So I'm going to stop there. But I really want you to lean into this idea of like midlife does not have to be a shit sandwich, friends. It does not. And everything we have in front of us is a choice. And so we are in many ways facing, I mean, thank goodness, not dire life and death, like some of the firefighters and the climbers I mentioned in these stories. But it kind of is, because it's about the quality of life that we have. And I, again, don't know about you. I really want to be vital. I have literally said, I want the second half of my life to be better than the first. You know what I do better now? Patience, faith, deeper connections in my life, better boundaries in my life, much more wisdom, enjoying my newly adult child, enjoying my relationship in a different way, not taking time for granted. Okay. I have faced loss of a mother. I have faced major life crisis in moving and shifting my purpose and my work. My dad has dementia. My God. I mean, there's a lot of things. So I don't stand before you today like I'm not like throwing confetti and like every single part of this will be amazing. I'm never going to lie about that. What I am going to say is that we get a choice to show up and say, I'm going to do this better. I am going to be focused on X, Y, and Z in midlife. Joy, peace, connection, love, honoring time, honoring myself, learning to love myself for the first time, because maybe I haven't done it so well. A lot of my clientele show up, and that's the space they're working in. They've been guided by their fears. They've been afraid to branch out, do things that they consider scary. Today, I was talking to my coaching client about celebrating herself, which was really hard for her. She's been working her ass off, and she was like going to glaze right over it. I'm like, oh, no, 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 I'm sorry. Back it up, beep, beep, back it up. And she's like, oh, what? I don't want to be arrogant. No, I don't want to be. Oh, no. Oh, no. My poor clients. I was like, oh, no, we're going to celebrate this. Let's just take a breath here and let's just celebrate this moment. How hard you've worked. Let's look at where you started. Let's look at where you are. How's that going for you? Guess what? I appreciate your love and kindness about my support for you, but you did it. You did it. And the effort that people make is coming from a much deeper space of self-awareness and wisdom and resilience and strength and hope. So in midlife, we can say it's a crisis, and it can feel that way. We can feel like we're in an existential crisis. We can feel scared shitless that we're not sure where the hell we're going, and things are changing, and I sort of feel out of control about it. Or I pick a mindset that says, you know what? I'm going to do this different. I'm not going to listen to the bullshit mainstream, whatever they're selling, to scare the hell out of me. So I feel like I have to go and do 16 weight loss programs, or I've got to change this, or I won't be like cool with my family, or I've got to do that. And I've got to sustain this piece because that's what people said I had to do. We get to choose. So today, as we move into this month, I'm going to be talking more about midlife with you. What I have realized is I was talking purpose with people, and people don't know they've got a purpose problem. Oh, Denise, thank you for being here. They don't know they've got a purpose problem, bless their ever loving hearts. And so, because a lot of people are like, yeah, I know my purpose. Some people do. I hang in circles with people that probably say it more than maybe the average. And still, when they tell me, I'm like, and you don't want to insult somebody and be like, that's actually not really it. But yeah, I hear you. And they're partway there. They're partway there. They just haven't gotten the whole way there. But what I'm realizing, I think, is that that's way underneath all the pieces that I'm talking about today. So if I'm like owning a business, I created it, I thought I was going to love it, it's making money, I've got employees, and I'm like, I just don't really like to go to work. And I think I'm a whiny little bitch. Okay. That's a problem. And so that's going to be forward for you, not the stuff underneath. You're right here. Maybe you've lost some really important people in your life and you're in deep grief. Maybe you are in a state of having some health issues. And so that's totally face forward. So my point is that until we go to some of those spaces, until I show up to help meet you where you are, you might not even know this is hanging out down here. So my job is to help be a bridge to make that connection for you to go, oh, because all the things are still happening. They're real. I'm an empty nester. Does it suck? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. For all sorts of interesting reasons we're not going to talk about today because I don't got time and neither do you. I'm an empty nester. It is really effing hard. So those things are truths. I am not taking away from that. But as things mount, we forget to look what the foundation is, right? We forget the foundation. And we're just doing survival mode, taking care of the parent, taking care of the sick aunt, taking care of the herbivora, sending out the gifts, making sure the kid's alive, making sure the college is paid for, we're doing this. We're still doing this. Oh my God. Are any of you tired like I am? Jesus. What I really want is to wake up every single day with a smile on my face as much as possible. I want to wake up with a smile on my face. I want to know that I'm doing what I absolutely love. I want to know that I am creating a space for the world to be just a little bit better, even if it's just by one person, just a little itsy bitsy bit every single effing day. I want to show up creatively, excited, enthusiastic, lit up. When I have bad feels, I'm going to have the bad feels. Because I will be sad. There will be loss. There will be change. And I can either go in and I'm in a midlife crisis, or I can go, well, this effing sucks. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to practice the shit I hard earned right here, that I can have the feels, and then I can move on. That the feels are part of life, and that's okay. How can I be safe in the feels to continue moving forward so that I don't just have to be where I am and stuck? You don't have to be in crisis to make a transformation in midlife. None of us do. So this is an invitation to rethink. It's an invitation, if you listen this long, to set down your axe, that thing you've been holding, the thing you believe, the thing that you're, holding on to. Take a look at that for yourself. If you're brave, I love bravery. And you're braver than you think, by the way. Had to teach my client that this morning. If you're brave enough, tell me what you think you're holding on to in midlife. Do you have a belief system? Is midlife a shit sandwich? Is midlife going to be effing terrible and then we die? Because after this, it's retirement and then we're not really sure why we're here. Guess what that's connected to? Purpose. Right? It's like we lose our guidance system. So let's talk about what you might be holding on to as a belief system, an idea, a story, whatever, that is maybe not serving you, to slide into midlife in a different way. And I want to just leave this notion that there is nothing I'm saying today that I'm like, there won't be hard stuff. That is a lie. And I'm nothing if honest. And so I'm not negating that we're going to face some stuff. What I am proposing is how you want to face the stuff. Do you want to roll with that idea that life is shit and then you die? Do you want to roll with the idea that I must midlife crisis my way into problem solving something that might be sort of a little bit better? Or are you like, F that noise? I get to choose. I get to choose how I want to show up in this part of my life. I get to choose to send energy, focus, time, and love into the places that I really want, because I've hard earned this wisdom about what that looks like. I learned to set boundaries for myself. I learned to figure out what my purpose is when my child is no longer in my home. Or when I stopped that one job that I swore was the thing. Or maybe, like I said, you're in a marriage and it isn't fulfilling anymore because now the kid is gone and you thought, oh shit, that was the glue. And now the glue's not here. And now what do we do? And I just want to invite you to sit with yourself for a moment and think about how you want to do this next part. Kicking, screaming, shit sandwich, angry as hell, exhausted? Or would you like to do it with some vitality and some joy and some peace and a whole boatload of laughter? Because I'm telling you what, sometimes if you're not crying, you're laughing, and I will always, always choose laughter. Always. I was remembering this morning getting ready to come talk to you all today, and then I'm done, I swear. My dad, we were at a mall one time, my mom and dad and I, and I'm an adult, and I forget how old I was. And I was home in Madison visiting my parents, and we're at this mall, and my dad is driving around the mall parking lot, and I'm not kidding, cannot find a way out of the curbs. Everywhere he goes. And my mom and I are freaking crying. We're like, what is even happening? He's like, I don't know. I cannot find my way out of the parking lot. And we are literally weeping. Okay. So this is how I was raised. This is how I was raised. I literally think it is so important that, like, that was such a pivotal piece of watching my parents in midlife. I don't know what flummoxed my dad. I couldn't say. I don't know, but it was freaking hilarious. And we chose to laugh about that. We weren't mean to him. We weren't derogatory. It was just hilarious, right? That's how I choose to do stuff. If I can find humor in the weirdest, most uncomfortable, godforsaken places, I'm pulling it forward. Thank you, Jesus. And Sue said, shifting your perspective is simple, but it's not easy. It is not easy. It is not easy, which, thank you for saying that, Sue. So I wanted to share my dad's mid-story life that was cracking me up this morning as I was getting ready and doing my makeup. I was like, oh, that's a great story because my dad literally got stuck in a parking lot. I don't know. Anyway, it's great. So it's not easy. Here's what I'm going to say. What's important about that? As we close, what I would tell you is that if you would like more support in this area and you're like, oh, that sounds nice, I would too also like to maybe look at midlife a little bit differently. I would like to live an aligned, purposeful, peaceful, joy-filled, laughing my ass off life. Then I invite you to head on over to my website, which is laughinglotuswellness.com, where I put all sorts of tools in there. And the first vlog of this week was about changing habits. And it is completely, right now, I'm having a midlife moment of escaping me what the hell the content was. Because I think the next one coming up is, oh, this one was taking stock. Just give myself a minute. Look at that, Grace. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I got it. Taking stock. Why is it important to take stock? Go back and catch the vlog. If you're on Instagram, sorry, because Instagram is a poop face and will not, for some reason, upload the video. So you'll have to go find it on my website. Taking stock. Why is that a good habit? And I talk about that. So if you're interested in learning more and getting more support, that is a great space to connect to me and find some of those tools. So come join me live on Thursdays. I come on almost always at noon, and otherwise I let you know if I'm changing something around, if I've got a guest or something. I do think we're going to have a guest this month, which I'm very excited about. And so there'll be some other things coming, but I just want to really drop that in here. And so Sue, thank you so much for saying that changing perspective. And I wouldn't even say it is simple because I get what you're saying, but it's hard, which is why we're talking about it. Are you willing to lean into doing some work to have a different kind of life? And not everybody will. Some people are going to listen to this video and be like, bye. That's okay. I'm not your people. If you're like, you know what? I'd like the second half to be better. I would like to have more laughter. I would like to have a different perspective, and I'd like support, because guess what is crucial? Community. Who you're hanging out with. Because if every single time I go to a family function or a friend gathering, and what we do is spend 2 hours talking about everyone's bunions and their chronic IBS, and I'm not joking about any of those items, but I'm just saying, right, if that's what we're talking about, and my kid is loud, I don't know what to do with myself. Okay, like if this is all we're talking about, you're going to leave a freaking mess. Now, there is space to hold for that. That's not where I'm going. And you all know that because I'm a psychotherapist by trade. So you know I'm not making light of those things. But what I'm saying is, if my friends, if my family, this is where they roll, that is not elevating my journey. Right? And you'd be like, oh, right? Midlife sucks. Okay. If I start hanging out with people that are vital and excited and renewing their lives in one way, shape, or form all the time, and reading cool shit and talking about cool shit and leaning in and learning to be a different kind of person and have greater self-awareness and have deeper connection and renegotiate the things in their lives that didn't go so great the first half. The energy is two totally different things. Can we feel that? Right? For me, that's pivotal. Community support and the people that I'm hanging out with are everything. So look at your ex, whatever you're hanging on to, go back and listen to the front end of this story. If you are not just now catching us, look at this thing you're hanging on to that you think was going to save your life at one point, maybe because you were told or taught or whatever. You're hanging on to the axe. And do you want to die gripping it, or do you want to lay that shit down, do something different, and have a better life? Answer that question for you, because it's that you can share it with me or not, but I want you to answer it for you. What do you want for your life? I want my second half to be better. If you want your second half to be better, put it in the comments. I want to hear you. Okay. That's like a revival up in here. Okay. So go check out laughinglotuswellness.com for more tips and tools. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off until next time, my friends. Sending you blessings, love, and light from Jen as I support you to rise on your path to purpose and make the best of your midlife. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.